Oh my god, Zach LaVine requested a trade. Draymond Green put Rudy Gobert in a headlock. The Sacramento Kings are on a 6-game win streak. Chet Holmgren looks like the Rookie of the Year. There's so much going on, so I think it's time we recap it.
Welcome to the first installment of a weekly series called Basketball This Week, heavily inspired by FNG's Football This Week, FTW, in which I recap moments from the NBA in that particular week, uploaded every Monday. So, without further ado, let's start with this week of basketball, discussing what happened last Monday, November 11th. Opening up this week, here are the records for each conferences. And now, let's start with the actual games. Today, we only had 4 games, starting with the Raptors and Wizards, in which the Wizards were at one point up by a whole 23 points, but to no avail, because Jordan Poole decided to shoot a deadly 6 for 16 tonight, while Siakam dropped a light little 39, 12, and 7, leading a comeback against this AAU squad, whose only game plan is to give Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole the ball and let them cook, which obviously didn't work tonight, but Kuzma was balling out a little bit. He had 30 piece. Moving on to the Celtics and Knicks game for today, and yeah, Celtics blew the Knicks out. I mean, at least they tried. Now, let's move on to the next game. The Bucks and Bulls game was kind of exciting. We had Giannis hit this shot at the end of the first quarter to bring the Bucks up 35-18. God damn, that's disgusting. But then the Bulls came back in the second quarter. It was a close game in the third quarter, and the Bucks pulled away in the fourth, winning the game by almost 10 points, in which Giannis had a light little 35 and 11 for the night. Then we move on to a Kings game, baby. The Kings versus the Cavaliers. De'Aaron Fox was out for the last 3 games for the Kings with an ankle sprain or something like that he sustained during a Lakers and Kings game at the very end of it. And he came back this game against the Cavs and decided to drop 28 points in a win against the Cavs. And this game was pretty fun. From top to bottom, this whole Kings team was cooking. Keegan Murray dropped 25 and 8. Sabonis almost dropped a triple-double with 23, 10, and 9. And De'Aaron Fox, of course, had that 28 piece with 6 assists. Kevin Huerter was lighting it up from the 3. All around, it was a great performance for the Kings, and it was a great game in general, if you're a Kings fan. But I guess the Cavs did kind of lose in embarrassing fashion, and the score doesn't look as bad because the Cavs decided to put up some points in the fourth quarter when it didn't matter as much. But hey, at least it doesn't look that bad when you check the box score at the very end of it. Now that ends Monday's games, so let's move on to Tuesdays. For Tuesday's games, we had yet another installment of the NBA's most unwanted edition of all time, being the in-season tournament. And if you want to know exactly what the in-season tournament is, then shit, I don't know. I couldn't really tell you if I'm being honest. And apparently, neither can the actual NBA players, because Bones Highland straight up said this.
Trophies at stake this early in the season, like, is that extra motivation for you guys?
I'm not even gonna lie, I don't even know what's going on.
He coincidentally got taken out of the rotation shortly after this. I'm on to you, NBA officials. You can't make us care for this sorry-ass tournament. But hey, at least they have nice courts with Poverty Larry O'Brien's in the middle of them. But yeah, since it was the in-season tournament, we're gonna have a lot of games to recap, so let's speedrun these. Actually, just kidding, I lied. We first have to talk about how Zach LaVine is now on the table for trade discussion since the Chicago Bulls made him available. And I really like this decision from the Bulls because I think it was about time they blew up this roster. This core of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic wasn't really getting much done the past few years, and not to mention they've been dealing with injuries from one of their best players, Lonzo Ball. So all in all, this team has kind of been botched, and they've been in no man's land, just making the play-in or barely scratching the playoffs. So it's about time they decide to blow it up, get some picks, and build for the future. And if you want to know what I think would be a good package for Zach LaVine, well, go watch a Kenny video, he probably knows more. He's a big Bulls fan. Now finally, back to the games. The Hawks and Pistons had a game that went down to the wire with the Hawks pulling out on top by 6 points because of a DeJounte Murray 32 piece. But the Pistons had a really good game too, because I love Aswar Thompson. He's just such a hustle player. He gets on the offensive glass, the defensive glass, he plays outstanding defense, and he can put points on the board too, if it matters. I really want to see him in the future because he's progressing pretty good. And oh my god, look at this body Aswar caught. And Marvin Bagley also had kind of a masterclass this game. That's kind of odd. Alright, next game now. For the next game of the night, we had the Heat and the Hornets, and they also had a pretty close game with PJ Washington and LaMelo Ball balling for the Hornets, but it was to no avail as they lost to the Heat. I really have no idea where Eric Spoelstra finds all these comp-ass role players. Anyways, next game. For the next game of the night, we had another close game between the Indiana Pacers and the Philadelphia 76ers, where the Philadelphia 76ers had 4 people scoring 20+ points. But unfortunately, it was to no avail because Tyrese decided to drop 33 and 15 tonight. He's the next point god. I've been telling y'all since day one. Then we had the Spurs versus the Thunder where, yeah, the Thunder blew them out. I really don't have to go over this game. Just look at that score. We then had another blowout game where the Nets beat the Magic by 20. And yeah, pretty uneventful again. Just look at the score. And I hate to say it, but we had yet another blowout tonight with the Pelicans blowing out the Mavericks, which is probably due in part to Luka Doncic having an off night where he shot 5 or 16. But I'm sure he'll be back next game, actually performing like an MVP player like he usually does. Moving on, we had the Utah Jazz versus the Portland Trailblazers, in which the Utah Jazz won by 16. And this game was definitely a game of all time. I mean, it was semi-competitive, and then the Jazz started to pull away in the fourth quarter. And yeah, I really don't have much to say about this game. But hey, at least the in-season tournament court for the Jazz looks pretty nice. Like, look at that. Oh my god, only 3 more games. Then we had the Clippers versus Nuggets, which was a great game. It went down to the absolute last shot in which the ball was in Paul George's hands for the win. He had to hit a 3, and he got a wedgie. I've never seen some shit like this. And what's even more crazy is they actually just lost the game because of that, because the Nuggets won the jump ball and then just ran out the clock. Hey, but at least Paul George had a valiant effort with 35 points. And I thought Jokic was doing ass, but I checked the box score and then see that he had 32, 9, and 16. I swear, Jokic is the only player that you can watch and say, damn, this guy's doing ass. He's the reason their team's losing. Check the box score and realize you just had a generational performance that should be talked about for years to come. Then, for the second to last game, we had the Lakers and Grizzlies, and yeah, it was a blowout. But I love you, LeBron. Okay, now for the main event, which was the Warriors and Timberwolves. Let's get into it. I don't know what was in the air tonight or in the arena, because everyone in this game was on hots for absolutely no reason. As not even 2 minutes into this game, we had a fight between Jaden McDaniels and Klay Thompson, where Rudy Gobert seems to be breaking it up. He could be engaging in a headlock, but I know for damn sure that Draymond was engaging in a headlock, because oh my god, look at this. Shit might not even be a headlock. That should look like a rear naked choke. You know, I joked last year's playoffs about Draymond auditioning for the WWE after he stomped out Sabonis, and it seems he wanted to make his case more evident and stronger, because he put on full display his chokehold right here. The worst part is that I'm pretty certain Rudy Gobert was trying to break up the fight. And you may be thinking, why would he go after the other team if he was attempting to break up the fight? Wouldn't he hold his own teammate? Well, I don't know if you remember, but it seems Rudy Gobert has a tough time finding out which team he should be fighting for. Anyways, back to the actual game, the Warriors were playing with their B team because Klay Thompson got ejected, Draymond got ejected, and Curry was out for this game. So yeah, they just really didn't have anyone. The game went down to the wire where Anthony Edwards drives in, up by 1, kicks it out of Mike Conley, who hits the dagger 3 for the win. And all I can say is that I'm really happy for this Minnesota team. You know, being a fan of a poverty team myself, I know how it feels, and to see that they're dominating this early on in the season, you know, I just gotta be happy for Wolves and Wolves fans. But that rounds out Tuesday's games, so let's move to Wednesday. For Wednesday, November 15th, we had 8 NBA games, meaning 16 teams played today, so a little over half the league played in today's games. Starting with the Mavericks and Wizards, in which the Mavericks came out on top 130 to 117. Then for the next game of the night, we had the Boston Celtics and the 76ers, in which Jaylen Brown was out for the Celtics. So Jason Tatum had to step up, and step up he did. He dropped 29, 8, and 6 in a 10-point win against the 76ers. For our third game of the night, the Bucks faced off against the Raptors, in which Dame was without his co-star in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that still feels weird to say. Dame is playing with Giannis. I still need to let that sink in, man. Anyways, even though Damian Lillard's stint with this roster has been very short and very inconsistent, tonight he decided to go off as he dropped 37 and 13. And special shout out to Malik Beasley as he also dropped 30. For the next game of the night, we have the Hawks and the Knicks, in which the Hawks were up by 7 with about 5 minutes to go. But Jalen Brunson wasn't going to let that slide and led the Knicks to a comeback with a final score of 116 to 114. This was a really fun game. I was in and out of it watching it when I was on my breaks at work, and all in all, it was just a spectacle. For the next game of the night, we got the Orlando Magic and the Chicago Bulls, in which the Orlando Magic beat the Bulls by 2 points in a very close game. But this game felt like a 90s game as neither team managed to score 100 points with very low scores for both teams. And there really wasn't much to say about this game. That's my way of saying I didn't watch this shit. Hey, but at least looking back on these highlights, at least it looks like Paolo was balling. For the last 3 games of tonight, they were all kind of blowouts, so I'm just going to mention them all together quickly. The Timberwolves got beat by the Suns by almost 20 points, 133 to 115, with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker both dropping 31 to secure the victory. Then the Cavs beat the Portland Trail Blazers by 14 points, with an ending score of 109 to 95. With Donovan Mitchell dropping a 34 piece and Evan Mobley dropping 21 and 12. Now for the final game of the night, we got one of my favorite matchups being the Kings and Lakers, in which the Kings beat the Lakers. The final score was 125 to 110, and this game really wasn't close all throughout, besides the Lakers made a little comeback towards the end of it. And we had Sabonis dropping 29 and 16, De'Aaron Fox dropping 28, and Kevin Huerter also dropping 28. This game was pretty fun, but it was kind of a blowout. Still, that's 4 in a row for my Kings. Light the beam, man. But with all of that being said, that rounds up the games for Wednesday. So let's move on to Thursday. For Thursday of the NBA week, we had 2 games. Why only 2 games? I don't know. The NBA needs to fix their scheduling, man. Adam Silver, lock in, buddy. Anyways, the 2 games that we had this week were kind of uneventful. We had the Heat versus the Nets. Jimmy Butler went off in this game, and they won 122 to 115. And this game looks a lot closer than it actually was because of garbage time points from the Nets. This game was done in the 3rd quarter. Then we had the Thunder versus Warriors. This game I actually watched all the way through. Why? I don't know. The show was kind of boring. They had like no players on the Warriors because of all the suspensions. And yeah, Klay Thompson wasn't doing shit. Chris Paul, he was doing alright. And yeah, they lost to Shea and the Thunder. So yeah, 128-109. Okay, now for Friday.
For Friday, it was another in-season tournament day, meaning we had hella games yet again. So let's go through them. For the first game, we have the Knicks and Wizards, and well, the Wizards are a property basketball franchise, so the result was nothing new. Riz God dropped a total of 8 points with Ruby Rose attending the game, and all I gotta ask is, what happened to the game I love, man? I thought this dude was supposed to perform when baddies came out. Then, the Bucks absolutely railed the Hornets despite a LaMelo 37-point game. But the real highlight of the night was the 27 days and 27 nights played today. Him playing actually got a standing ovation from the crowd. Yeah, the whole franchise of Charlotte is cooked, I'm afraid. Such an unserious basketball team. Now, the next game is the Kings versus Spurs, in which a generational talent went against Victor Wembanyama tonight. The Spurs got out to an early 18-point lead, but De'Aaron wasn't having any of that as he dropped 43, 8, and 7. He's him. I hope this helps stops the Kings trade the wrong point guard narrative, because what J. Cole say on Male Child? Because he was spitting. They act like 2 legends cannot coexist. They're both great. Then the 76ers beat the Hawks in good fashion, 126 to 116. Following that, we had a close game between the Raptors and Celtics, in which the Celtics won 108 to 105. And then we had another close game, Cavaliers versus the Pistons, in which the Cavaliers beat the Pistons by 8 points, 108 to 100. Following that, somehow, some way, the Pelicans actually beat the Nuggets 115 to 110. And my only theory is that Zion must have had some good jambalaya or some shit that day from a nice New Orleans cuisine because he was playing like his life depended on it. The Magic beat the Bulls 103 to 97, and Zach LaVine dropped 34 in a loss. And if that isn't a sign from the universe showing that he needs to be traded, then I don't know what is. LeBron pushing 40 carried the Lakers in a win over the Trailblazers 107 to 95. And LeBron just had a masterclass performance in general. Closing out the night, we had 2 amazing games. One being the Suns versus the Jazz, which ended in a final score of 131 to 128. This game was hard fought all the way through and was won because of a Kevin Durant almost triple-double with 38, 9, and 9, and then Devin Booker dropping 24 and 15. Who said this team needs a point guard? They got point god Devin Booker. But for the Jazz, we had Jordan Clarkson with a 36 piece, but unfortunately, his team still lost because KD is really just like that. He's the best player on this team. Maybe Devin Booker's better. Actually, I don't know. I take back that statement. This team's just overall really good and star heavy. For the final game of the night, we have a close one between the Clippers and Rockets. But don't get it twisted, the Rockets are actually a good team this year, so it makes sense that it was a hard-fought game. Everyone on the big 3 for the Clippers had at least 20 points. Russell Westbrook tried to catch a body over Dillon Brooks, but it didn't work out too well. Moving on to the end of the game, James Harden hit a dagger 4-point play to seal the win and end the 6-game loss streak that was before this, which everyone said was Harden's fault. But now Harden ended it. Isn't that kind of poetic? But finally, that rounds out Friday's game, so let's move on to Saturday. For the first game of Saturday, we had the New York Knicks versus Charlotte Hornets, and we could all kind of tell who was going to win this game. Jalen Brunson had a monster performance with 32 points, but if y'all have actually been watching Knicks basketball, this is nothing new. Jalen Brunson is a stud. This was combated by a 34-point performance from LaMelo Ball, but it was still in a loss because the Knicks won 122 to 108. And Brandon Miller also dropped 29 points. I will never forget that people said this dude's career was over in Summer League. Moving on from that game, we had the Minnesota Timberwolves and the New Orleans Pelicans, in which the Timberwolves were down by 11 at one point in the 4th quarter, all for them to come back, and Karl Anthony Towns hitting a game winner at the very end of it. Cat on the night had 29, 9, and 6. Hey, maybe he wasn't lying when he said he was going to come out being a different beast this year. For the next game of the night, we had the Dallas Mavericks and the Milwaukee Bucks, and this was nothing but an offensive spectacle, as both teams scored high points, and they were spearheaded by 2 of the best duos in the league, that being Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and Giannis and Damian Lillard. Like, just look at these numbers from the All-Stars. Kyrie Irving dropped 39 points, Luka Doncic dropped 35, 9, and 9, almost a triple-double. Then for the Bucks, Giannis dropped 47 and 15, and Damian Lillard dropped 27 and 12. This was a crazy game, and both All-Stars for both teams showed out, with the Bucks ultimately getting the win 132 to 125. Following that game, we actually had the battle of the mid as the Memphis Grizzlies went against the San Antonio Spurs, and the Memphis Grizzlies are obviously without Ja because of certain reasons, but still, the Grizzlies won 120 to 108, securing their third win of the season. The next game after that was the Chicago Bulls versus the Miami Heat, in which the Miami Heat got off to a disgusting 22 to 1 lead, but they still lost. Like, are we serious, Miami? This doesn't change a single thing about the Bulls though. They need to blow it up. For the last game of the night, we actually had the most exciting one. The OKC Thunder versus the Golden State Warriors. And the Golden State Warriors actually got Curry back for this game, but it meant nothing, as the Thunder ultimately won it in a very exciting game. The game was tied, and with 5 seconds to go, Kevin Looney grabs an offensive rebound for the Warriors and kicks it out to Andrew Wiggins, who hits a 3 to put the Warriors up by 3 with 1.6 seconds left on the clock. And everyone thought the game was won. Even the Warriors commentator says Andrew Wiggins hit the game winner, but does he know? Chet Holmgren gets a ball guarded by Andrew Wiggins in the corner with 1.6 seconds to go and hits a post fadeaway 3 for the tie to send the game into OT. And you might be asking, why didn't the Warriors just foul on this play so they could only score 2 points and not tie the game and send it to OT? And to that I say, shit, I really have no idea. The Warriors really fumbled on that one. Steve Kerr, come on. Then with the game sent into OT, Shea really took over and just dominated this whole entire OT so that the Warriors eventually won it. The final score of the game was 130 to 123, and Shea had a 40 piece with 7 rebounds and 6 assists, and then Chet had a 36-point game with 10 rebounds and 5 assists. If we don't just give this man his Rookie of the Year trophy already, I'm gonna get mad, because he's doing all of this on insane splits. He's that guy. For the final day of this video, we have Sunday, and there were a lot of blowouts this day, so let's get those out the way first. We had the 76ers blow out the Brooklyn Nets 121 to 99. We had the Raptors absolutely dog the Detroit Pistons 142 to 113. This game was embarrassing, and I don't even know what to do about the Pistons. They're just abysmal this season. Then we had the Orlando Magic beat the Indiana Pacers in embarrassing fashion. The Orlando Magic put up 42 points in the first quarter to the Indiana Pacers 21, and Tyrese Haliburton kind of had a stinker tonight, but we know that won't last for long. I love Tyrese. The final score was 128 to 116, and this score would be a lot worse if the Indiana Pacers didn't go crazy in the fourth quarter. Following that, the Cavs beat the Nuggets 121 to 109, and this was a game, for sure. They won this game even without Donovan Mitchell. Then for this game, I don't even think it deserves me to say anything. Just look at the score.
Oh dear lord.
Following that, we had a semi-blowout with the Kings beating the Mavericks 129 to 113, and just look how sad Mark Cuban is realizing that he lost to the Beam team. That's now 6 in a row for the Kings. I used to pray for times like this. Are we finally contenders? For the next game, we had a double OT, in which Lauri Markkanen played 50 minutes this whole game, and yet he still lost. Damn, that's tough. With 20 seconds left to go, the score was 115 to 113. The Jazz down by 2, and Lauri Markkanen hit a 2 to send it into OT. Then Colin Sexton hit a putback buzzer beater in OT to send the game into a second OT. Then, with 0.9 seconds left, the Suns were up by 3, with the ball getting inbound to Lauri Markkanen's hands, in which he misses a post-fade 3 from the corner to tie the game, but a foul gets called. But these refs were too damn tired and just wanted to go home, as they rescinded the foul because they said that Kevin Durant hit the ball first, and it wasn't even a foul. Now for the second to last game, we had the Celtics and the Grizzlies, in which the Celtics actually almost lost to the Grizzlies, but won due to a KP performance, in which he was the leading scorer. This game was something, alright. It wasn't that good to watch, but at least it came down to the wire. Final score was 100 to 102. For the final game of the night, it was the Rockets versus the Lakers, in which LeBron had a 37-piece and hit the game-winning free throw. If LeBron has 1 million fans, I'm one of them. If he has 100,000 fans, I'm one of them. If he has 10 fans, I'm one of them. If he has 1 fan, I'm that fan. If he has no fans, I'm no longer on this earth. If the world is against LeBron, I'm against the world. He's my muse, my goat, my glorious sweet king. Whew, I think it's time to get off my knees. That was kind of crazy. Now, to end off, here's the records for the Eastern Conference at the end of the week. And the biggest change here is that the Pacers kind of fell off, and other than that, there actually isn't much that changed in the Eastern Conference, which is kind of crazy. Then, looking at the West, one of the most significant changes is the Warriors had an insane fall off because they're on a 6-game losing streak, which I somehow forgot to mention during this video. The Thunder jumped up to be tied with the 1 seed, and the Kings jumped up to the 4th seed. The Mavs had a tough week and went from being tied with the 1 seed to sliding down to being tied with the 4th seed. But with all of that being said, I think it's time to wrap up the video. I hope everyone enjoyed the first installment of basketball this week, and I hope everyone here has a great week ahead of them. Whether it's watching basketball, hanging out with family and friends, working, I hope you guys have the best week you can, and keep on grinding. Everything will pay off one day if you just put that hard work in and day out. So, enjoy. There's infinite possibilities out there. You just gotta reach for them.
That's cause I don't care when he coming. Nigga can't lose it. No, she tryna make love.